And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Hunter Renfrow. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Senegal baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and very proudly presented by Motley Rice. Causes not just cases. MotleyRice.com, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at StokesVW.com. Make sure you have downloaded our app. That's where you can watch and listen to our program. And you can comment in there as well. Already got one from Nathan saying, "Go Hoes." Because last night we know what happened. South Carolina lost another midweek game, but congratulations to Presbyterian for walking into Founders Park and beating the Gamecocks. We're going to get there. Make sure you follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. The Share Healthcare chat lines, they're open. We hope you're in them. If you're not, get in there, and we'll make you a part of our program. Chad Holbrook will be a part of it in about 8 minutes. He's the head coach at the College of Charleston. And then he'll be followed by JC Shurburtt. Last night in baseball, the Cougs lost to Charlotte, a really, really, really good team this year. So we're going to recap all of that, certainly, Darren. But apologize for being off yesterday. We're back today. I am battling some type of cold. Hope it's not COVID, but I'm battling whatever it is, Darren. So from time to time, you'll hear me sniffle. And my head is killing me.
Man, I feel for you. I really do. The good news is this is another shortened week here because we won't be on Friday. So you've got an extra day to kind of recoup the weekend. And the reason for Friday is a personal one and one I'm proud of. I'm doing something at my daughter's school that she wants me to be a part of. So that takes precedence. So we've got today, we've got tomorrow. Maybe we'll know if Tiger's going to play in the Masters by then, but I doubt it. And then we'll figure that out next week and see what happens this weekend in the Final Four.
It's true. Tiger played
yesterday.
Did he play 18?
Played 18 with Justin Thomas and Charlie, his son. I have not heard whether or not he walked. I was about to tweet whether carts are even allowed. I mean, even for Tiger, are carts allowed on Augusta National? I don't know the answer to that, but look, do you really think Tiger's walking Augusta National for 4 days? I don't. But he obviously loves the course. He got Charlie out there for a practice round yesterday, so that's awesome. Maybe he can do the par 3 with Charlie, and maybe he stuns me and everybody else and actually goes out and tries to play. It's affected the odds. His odds have dropped like from 6-1 to 4-1. I mean, they're plummeting down. I think 60 actually and 40-1.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. That's a tricky one there. I hope he does play just because I really want to watch him play, and it would be a story. You know me, I've never lost belief in that he could be back sooner than later, and I never truly lost belief that he could be back for the Masters. I think it's still a long shot, but I mean, a lot of people said, no way, never going to happen. I'm like, dude, I don't know. How many times have we said never going to happen over the years with Tiger Woods, and then it happens? Like, you can't say that about him.
Nope.
So we'll find out.
It surprised the golf world when all of a sudden there were rumblings yesterday. Tiger might play a practice round today, and then you got the plane tracker being followed by everyone. It caught a lot of people by surprise. So he's trying to some degree. He's trying.
There's no doubt. There's no doubt. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But that would be one heck of a story. The Masters just a week and a day away. A week and a day away from the official start of the Masters. Meaning, next Wednesday will be the what do they call it, Darren?
The par three.
The par three.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah, no,
when my head hurts, my head doesn't work.
No, it's true. It's true for everyone. But were you awake last night to watch the baseball game? I mean, look, you still got a series from Texas. You got a series from Vanderbilt. I don't know. Maybe you're going to go win the SEC tournament, even though you don't typically play well there.
Dude, look, we all in baseball. I say this all the time. You're going to lose midweek games, but what we don't say all the time is you should not make it a trend. You can't lose that many midweek games. It's embarrassing. I mean, and that is no disrespect to Presbyterian or the Citadel or Xavier. I have the utmost respect for the Citadel's baseball programs. Everybody knows. And Presbyterian as well. And, I'm not going to say that about Xavier. Hell, I didn't even know they had a baseball team. But you're South Carolina. Act like it. I think it's poor leadership. I think it's poor leadership from the older players. And, if that translates to the coaching staff, then it's poor leadership there. Can't lose that many midweek games. They played 24. They have 4 losses in the league. They have 8 non-conference losses. That's horrible. I mean, that's horrible. So, but we're going to talk more about that. JC's ahead, and we're going to get there. Before we get there, though, this Friday and Saturday, if you're in the Low Country, you might want to check this out. This is really, really, really cool. Darren, our friends over at Wando Power Equipment on Daniel Island will have their annual open house Friday and Saturday. And so they're bringing it back like they used to pre-COVID. So they're going to have lunch both days. So you might need something. You might need a chainsaw. You might need a mower, a commercial mower. Let me tell you what they got going on. 15% off of Echo X Series equipment. All right, that never happens. 15% off of all Shindawa equipment. That never happens. And 20% off of most Red Max equipment. That never happens. So they save all of it for the open house. The only reason I know that never happens is because I've talked to the owners about it. Promo pricing on select Hustler equipment. That comes around once a year, which is the open house. And they'll also have some door prizes. And they don't have it's not like they're giving you like a bouncy ball. Like they have real door prizes at Wando Power Equipment. So if you go to wandopower.com and you're going to be in the Low Country this weekend, or somebody like, man, that guy, he might need a new commercial mower, chainsaw, weed whacker, whatever it is, Friday and Saturday, all day. Head to Wando Power Equipment on Daniel Island. Go to wandopower.com, and we'll remind you about that again tomorrow. But really, I'm actually trying to get over there if I can on Saturday for the Wando Power Spring Open House. All right. Last night, we mentioned how poor it was for South Carolina. It was not in the upstate. Congratulations to our dear friend Monte Lee, his 500th career win as a head coach, a 9-3 final over Winthrop. So the Tigers get a nice midweek victory there after falling twice this past weekend up at Pittsburgh, and hopefully we'll see how that transitions moving forward. But nonetheless, a win for Clemson, 500 in the career of Monte Lee, one of the great ones in college baseball. Georgia Tech big over Charleston Southern in Atlanta, 17-3 was the final score there. The Citadel beat North Florida 8-1, and now they're going to get on a plane and head to Omaha. They have a 3-game series this weekend at Creighton, and we're trying to get Tony Skoll on the air with us tomorrow from Creighton or from Omaha. So we're trying to work that out with him. We'll see if we can get it done or not. Trying to rearrange some schedules around their practice schedule and stuff like that. But the Dogs, this is really cool. This is the first time, even though it's just a mid-season series, this is the first time they'll be in Omaha since they were in Omaha in 1990 when they actually beat Miami to get there. And Tony Skoll was the third baseman on that team. and now he's the head coach. So that is really neat. Looking forward to seeing what happens there. And then last night up in Charlotte, Charlotte's really good. They're in the top 25, and they took down the College of Charleston 9-0. And we'll be joined in just a couple of minutes by head baseball coach Chad Holbrook. Chad, try to check in on him and his Cougars as they are moving forward here. But anyways, there you go. That is your college baseball roundup from last night in the state. With JC coming today, by the way, we will have some conversation with him about some of these legislative meetings that have been going on in Columbia. I'm not sure who has seen this and what's happening, but there are a couple of bills in state legislature. One is in the state Senate, one is in the House, and they are to restructure the Board of Trustees at the University of South Carolina. Yep. Because I was sick yesterday, I was able to take plenty of time and watch. I had seen some on Monday, and I watched the rest of it yesterday. And, you have to just wonder the angles of all parties involved, and what the reasonings are. There are certainly major political figures in this state, both whom attended the University of South Carolina and not, that are looking to make some changes. Mm-hmm. And then clearly those in place on the Board of Trustees are fighting to keep their positions and legitimize why they should continue to keep those positions and keep a board of that size or whatever it is. So we're going to talk to JC about a lot of that. I don't have all the answers, but I can tell you that the Board of Trustees at South Carolina is a strange ordeal, and
often criticized. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of people looking, down on the idea of, hey, maybe there's going to be a change.
Yeah, maybe.
Outside of you.
There's a lot of dudes yesterday. I'll just be honest with you, kind of throwing Coach Tanner just under the bus. It's like they don't even realize how ADs work. I don't know. I don't think we need to ask Chad Holbrook about the Board of Trustees at South Carolina. He'll probably plead the fifth on that one. What's up, man?
I better take the high road. I'm doing all right. How you guys doing?
You're going way up the mountain and around that conversation. That's for sure. Yeah. Let's not do that.
I mean, I love my experience there, and there's some people on the board that are dear friends. So it's, but I understand, I certainly understand, and very clear on why they're talking points, because a lot of times they're quotable in the papers from time to time. So it's for certainly a talking point among Gamecock fans.
Yeah, the old board, Coach. Well, we didn't bring you on to talk about that. That's for sure. I know last night was a tough night against Charlotte. They're really good, man. That program, that whole athletics department has come a long way. Their football program's good. The baseball program's good. The basketball program's respectable. Wow.
Yeah, it's a top, no doubt. It's a top 25 team. They're ranked in the top 25 for a reason. And they were in the NCAA tournament last year. I think made it the regional championship game. I believe that ECU beat them, I believe, at the end. But it's they're a good team. They're coached by one of my former players at North Carolina, a guy named Robert Woodard, who's done a great job there. And it was a tall order for us. I'll be the first to say it was a long trip to get up there. And we didn't play particularly well, and we needed to throw some guys yesterday that haven't gotten a lot of game experience lately, and obviously midweek games are tough from time to time when you don't throw your better guys, and you got a conference coming up, and that's probably the point of conversation with you guys earlier about other teams in the league. Sometimes they're difficult, and you want to win them all. And that's no excuse by any stretch. I can tell you this, last night, Charlotte was better than we were, no doubt about it. And tough trip for us. But you know what? I think we'll be better down the road for playing.
Well, you're going to be better down the road for going through what you've just gone through. I mean, you're 6-3 in your last 9 games, and those 6 wins include a pair over ECU, a win over the second-ranked team in the country in Texas, and you swept Northeastern this weekend. And in doing that, they've got a good staff, and that didn't matter to you. Or your guys, Coach, 28 runs on the board. Now you're 15-10 on the season. An outstanding start to CAA play with that 3-0 record.
Yeah, we've had some bumps early in the year. We've lost some games we maybe should have won as we were trying to find ourselves some. But anytime you get a chance to win 3 games against the preseason conference favorite, and they were they're very well thought of nationally with the pitching staff they roll out there, and we just had a great weekend. And like I told the team, though, a great weekend doesn't make a season, and we have to build on it, and hopefully we'll put together some consistent play in our league as we go forward here. It certainly gets us off to a great start, knowing we beat one of the tougher teams in the league. And but like I said, we got 21 more conference games, and I hope we can play with that type of efficiency and, not to use a Coach Tanner word, but that type of heightened awareness as well, the rest of those 21 games. And if we do, that'll put us in a good spot.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to go to Hofstra this weekend. What's the weather in Hempstead, New York this weekend? Is there snow on the ground, or are you good?
No, I think we're going to be okay. We've been up there a time or two, and it's been downright frigid. We get I think we're going to get low to mid 50s, which for up there this time of year is quite balmy. Yeah. So we'll take it.
Yeah, no kidding.
Snowing up in Pennsylvania. I mean, Pitt and Clemson Penn State got affected by it.
Yeah,
it's tough. I mean, it's tough anytime you have conference games up that way early in the year. But you don't really have a choice. It's baseball season, and this is the time of year that we play, and you have to go play. It's last year I think we played at James Madison early in the year, and it was without a doubt the coldest I've ever been on a baseball field. I don't know how the game was played. It shouldn't have been played, and to be honest with you, but it's tough. Sports not. It's not. Sometimes in football you can play your best football when it's cold, but baseball is not built that way. No. Either that, or we're not tough enough to handle it. And, that might be part of it.
Before the season started, we were talking to Monte, Coach, and Monte said that he was so cold at Boston College last year. He was standing next to the flame heater in the dugout, and somebody started yelling at him from the stands, and he finally turned around and wondering, what the hell is this guy talking about? And his pants were on fire.
I've burned a few pieces of apparel as well, standing next to the propane. There's one thing I don't do well, and I don't do cold weather very well. I'm not. I try to tell my players they got to fight through it and be tough, but in the back of my mind, I'm saying this is no fun whatsoever. And if I was playing right now, I wouldn't be worth 2 cents either. But it's just a tough sport to play in cold weather. But we're going to go up there. I think it's going to be okay. It's going to be manageable, and we'll need to play well. And we won't need to, use the cold weather as an excuse, because those guys went to Elon this past weekend and won 2 out of 3. So we're one of the top teams in our league, and they're playing well. They got a new coach, and we're going to have to play well to win the series. So hopefully our guys are ready for it.
Yeah, describe your league this? I mean, it's early in league play. You only played a series, but I know you keep up. You are a student of the game, and you're a student of the conference in which you play in. Describe what the CAA has accomplished thus far through about a month and a half of the season, I guess.
Well, our league has won some big games, but when you start looking at everybody's records, I think we're, and I think this goes from mid majors or maybe across the country. There's a lot of parity. Yeah. Where anybody can beat anybody on any given day. The talent gap is not a big separation between the top of the league and the bottom of the league. You're going to have to show up and play, and I think it looks like that from a record standpoint around the country. I mean, PC and the Citadel, obviously played well against South Carolina, and we played well against Texas, and I think Maryland. Maryland's a top 25 team. I believe Delaware in our league beat those guys. Northeastern, obviously we swept Northeastern, but Northeastern goes on the road and sweeps NC State, who was at that time a top 15 team. So I don't know if you can make much sense of it other than anybody can beat anybody. And I don't think sometimes in baseball that's the case, but I think this year the talent gap doesn't seem to be as far ranging between the mid majors and the Power Fives. And when you say that statement, you also have to realize that all the mid majors are closely, everybody's got some good players, and I don't think there's much separation between the two. There's some head-scratching losses. I mean, for a lot of teams around the country that you say, "Gosh, I mean, yeah, you didn't see that one coming," and I think that's our league's got some feathers in our cap because we've won some big games. UNC Wilmington's won some big games. I believe they beat Ohio State 3 out of 4 games. And obviously they played North Carolina, NC State, and Coastal Carolina. I think they got a win against Coastal Carolina as well. It's you know, you got to show up and play or you're not going to win. And, because the other teams are pretty good as well.
Do you have any theories as to why that is? Is it, did the COVID year close some of the gap? What is it?
Well, I mean, I think it's a number of things. The transfer portal, maybe a small fraction of it, and you having guys go to different places for opportunity to play. Obviously, the scholarship limitations are part of it as well. I think training in our sport year round is much better, so that's far-reaching to more players. I think there's the population of good baseball players around the country is probably at one of the highest levels it's ever been. So I think when you put all those things together, and there's certainly more factors that I haven't mentioned, but I think it gives you an idea that a team that you might not have heard of, or a team that might not have a great strong tradition in baseball, they have good players too, and you're seeing that across the country with some of the scores that are taking place, and especially when some of the mid majors are having some success against some of the Power Fives, and it's the talent gap's not as great, not as far reaching, and maybe some of the Power Fives aren't as deep as maybe they once were, especially in some of those midweek games, because of the parity and because of the transfer portal. I don't know. I mean, I'm just pulling out straws a little bit, wondering why myself as I sit here and talk about it. But it's we're certainly not as deep as we want to be, from a pitching standpoint per se. I mean, we started out the year and like, hey, we're pretty good. We got some depth, and then the season starts, and you might hit a bump in the road here or there from an injury standpoint, or a guy might have a confidence issue and not throwing as well as you'd like, and then all of a sudden you're not as deep as you want to be, and some of those midweek games are battle are tough, and I think that's apparent with what we've seen, around the league, around the country.
We've heard a ton, right, about the transfer portal in all sports, but I feel like on the baseball side, at least the casual fan, I don't think we see as much news about the transfer portal or discussion about the transfer portal in college baseball. Inside those circles, though, amongst the coaches, how big an impact are transfers having right now, really across the landscape of the sport?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I think the Dollander kid kind of jumps out at me. The kid throwing on Saturdays at Tennessee, who was, throwing 99 to 100 against Ole Miss over the weekend. I mean, he's a transfer from Georgia Southern. And there's others across the country as well. I mean, I haven't dove into it, to see exactly the huge impact, but the coach at LSU, for example, brought a number of his recruits and a number of his players to LSU from Arizona. And in the past that wouldn't have been allowed to take place. And I'm no fan of it. I'll be upfront and honest with you. I don't think it's right. I think it created some shenanigans in college athletics that if it would become public, wouldn't be something that we're proud of. And I think Dick Vitale put out a tweet yesterday about it and how it's having a negative impact on college athletics. And I see why the rule was put in place is we want to try to keep student athletes' best interest at heart, and that's why we're all in this business. But there's also some other factors to consider as well, and as a coach, I'm no fan of it, and I think the NCAA is probably going to have to take a long, hard look at it in the future. I'm not speaking with any knowledge or any definite things I've heard, but I think there's going to be a lot of people complaining. And I always said when I was asked, and I'm just a little old baseball coach with not much influence, but I was always asked, what do you when this portal and this transfer rules were put in place, I was like, is this a big deal or not? And I said, well, yeah, it's a very big deal, and everything's going to be fine with the transfer portal until the quarterback at Auburn transfers to Alabama, or the point guard at Duke transfers to North Carolina, or vice versa. When that happens, look out. And you know, I don't know if we're far away from something like that taking place. And then you know, and then all kinds of, and I think people will go back to the drawing board when that takes place.
That's exactly right. Chad Holbrook, head coach at the College of Charleston. And we didn't even really mean to go all the way down this road with you on it, Coach, but your perspective is unique because you're not just a baseball coach. You're also a dad.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have one son at North Carolina. You got another one who's headed to Vanderbilt next year. And so you see it from both angles. You see it from their angle as dad and what's right for them, but you also see it as coach and how it can affect a program, a young man that you've recruited that you expect to be with you for a few years, all of a sudden jumps up and leaves.
Ultimately, I think the rule was put in place with good intentions for the student and for the athlete. And I mean that sincerely. I don't think it's working out for the best intentions of the kid. And I say that this answer is coming from a dad.
Yeah.
I mean, the real world is tough, and you know, everything's not going to happen according to plan, and in life, or you know, or in sport. And you know, you've been dealt a tough hand, you know, as being a father. I've been dealt a tough hand being a father, and you know, it's not, you can't always make the tough times or make the difficult moments. You can't make them go away. And I think ultimately, don't we all learn from those tough times and become tougher or become smarter because of those difficult times? And right now, you know, you know, a kid might be told what they're not want to hear, or they might have to actually really go to the grindstone and compete for something and have to beat someone out, and which is a small sample of what real world and real life is all about. But now they can hide it and run away and go somewhere else, and you know, and not face some of the challenges or obstacles in front of them. And ultimately, I think for that reason, it might end up being a disservice to those kids.
I agree. You've coached a lot of dudes who waited their turn, and when their turn came, they became legends because of it. That had never happened.
Hey, I told my own kid called me the other day because he's not playing every day up at North Carolina. He's getting his feet wet here and there, but he's not playing much. And like most kids, you know, I'm proud that my kid wants to play. You know, I mean, I'm proud that he wants to play. But, you know, my response to him was, hey, when I was in North Carolina as a student, there was a young man on the basketball team as a freshman named Vince Carter. He never played. He never played as a freshman. I watched it. He didn't get to play hardly at all. And what is he? One of the top 50 NBA players of all time. At some point in time, you know, you have to, you know, exert some elbow grease, you know, pull up your bootstraps, so to speak, and try to improve and get better. It's not always the school's fault or the coach's fault, or you know, it's not supposed to be easy all the time. And I think I don't think personally as a dad, I think the transfer portal is allowing some kids to run away from some of the difficult challenges that are in front of them. And for that reason, I think in some ways this rule is being a disservice to them.
I agree. I totally agree. And there's
I can talk all day about this, but there's a word called loyalty, and it goes both ways. And I tell my team all the time, you know, if you don't have a loyalty in your life, you know, if you're not a loyal husband, or you're not loyal to your church, or you're not loyal to your family, or you're not loyal to your school, or you're not loyal to your program, it goes both ways. It's just not. If we can't teach them that, man, I mean, there's going to be things in society that are going to be all screwed up. Oh. And, you know, at the end of the day, in my world, I mean, and I'm just, again, just a little baseball coach and a dad, you know, and a proud dad and husband. If you don't have loyalty, do you have much, you know, regardless of what's in your bank account or regardless of you know, the status or the job you have. I mean, if you don't have loyalty, do you have much? And, you know, that's if I can't teach my kids or my players anything about baseball, if I can teach them that, I think I would have been successful if they can understand what the definition of loyalty is.
Hey, there's a lot of dudes that you have taught who As you, I know you won't say much about it, but think the world of you because of those type things. Who that I know very well, and this is another generation of young men who are getting coached by Chad Holbrook here at the College of Charleston. I do. Before we get you out of here in the next few minutes, I want to hit on some of them. We try to talk about the players, coach. And you got a bunch of good ones. We get questions a lot, Darren. As a matter of fact, we've had a few Mondays when we kind of go down the scores and give some of the notes from college baseball. We've had quite a few people asking about the young man from BE, Daniel Brooks, and I think that's just because there's so many eyeballs on him here in the Low Country, at least. And I know he's had some growing pains. So, kind of walk us through what his season early on has been like, and having to adjust from being Daniel Brooks, the high school star, to Daniel Brooks, the college guy trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a fair point. Daniel's it's actually been refreshing to be around Daniel every day as he navigates, some of the potholes that this game often puts in front of you. But he's handling things great. He comes to the park every day with a smile on his face. The talent and the ability and where he's going to be is easy to see. I mean, it's oozing out of him, but there's a lot that goes into the game. There's a lot that goes into pitching. It's more than just rearing back and throwing it as hard as you can and lighting up a radar gun.
Right.
And you have to sometimes. One of the beautiful things about athletics is, you're going to get punched in the face from time to time, and you have to pick yourself up off the mat. The great ones do, right? I mean, the great ones do. And Daniel has the chance to be great, and he is handling some of his bumps really well. And he's gotten better. I mean, he's growing, he's maturing, he's learning. I'm actually tickled to death with where he's at. And I don't think he's going to do anything but continue to get better and continue to learn, because he's got a level head on his shoulders. He's had a couple starts here and there that didn't go as well as he would like, but I bet you in a couple years he'll look back on some of the tough ones and say, I'm really good, or I'm an All-American, or I'm a high draft pick because of the things I learned as a freshman when I hit a few potholes. And I have a feeling. I don't have a feeling. I know that's what's going to occur, because he's got his head screwed on straight. Comes to work every day. Our players love him. He's had some moments of greatness, and I think he hit 98.4 or something on that Saturday game against East Carolina when he was throwing so well. And he's fine. He's going to be fine. If all I have to worry about is Daniel Brooks, I'm a lucky coach. He's going to be just fine.
98, that's nothing. The guy up at Tennessee throws 103. Coach, you don't.
He hit 104.1 the other day.
He keeps turning up his radio dial, man. He's listening to all the stations. You've been around baseball your whole life? Have you ever seen 103, 104 before? I've never seen it.
Never seen it.
No.
I think Chapman threw the fastest fastball I've ever seen, I guess, for Aroldis Chapman, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago or something. And I think he, was 104 something. And I was like, how in the world? I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I remember going to recruiting when we first got in the business, and a kid threw 88, you thought he was a flamethrower. Yep. Now he's pus, I guess is what we kind of say. I mean, he's 88, he's just lobbing it in there, I guess. I mean, I don't know if the radar guns have changed. I think it might be a combination of both. The radar guns are a little juiced more than they've been, and I think obviously it goes back to the training and sports specific training that these kids are getting and how strong they are. Some of the programs that they're on are far more detailed than they have been in the past.
Yeah, I agree, Coach. I might be way off on this, but it also looks like there have been a lot more bugaboos out there than at least I remember. I mean, there's guys who are a lot more guys than again I remember. I've been out of baseball now for 16 years, or Yeah, 16 years. But when I was coming out of high school, Coach, and you know all those guys that I played with, very few went to college with arm trouble. And I feel like there's a lot of kids that are getting to that level now, and they've already got it.
Well, these heavy baseballs that these kids are training with, and these weighted balls and stuff, might be some really, really cool things in regards to increasing velocity and strength. I don't know if the body is anatomically made to throw some of those weighted balls that might increase some strength, and might increase some arm speed, and might increase some things in regards to velocity. But you see a lot of kids in college breaking down. And, and I'm not saying I'm for there's so many different programs out there. And I'm not saying I'm for or against. I mean, there's people that handle these training programs the right way. And I'm no pitching guy. But I tell you this, Tom Glavine's in the Hall of Fame. Greg Maddux is in the Hall of Fame. Michael Roth, who I got to see in the dugout, I don't know if he threw a pitch over 86, and he was National Pitcher of the Year. So there's an art to pitching. Yep. And it's not always centered around velocity. And if I had a pitching staff full of Michael Ross, I'd be a happy coach. I can assure you that.
Yeah, I think you'd be fine. Sometimes you got to throw under bat speed, and that'll get the job done as well. It's just the nature of the beast. Well, I love the text you sent me a few weeks ago. We were chatting about some of your guys, and you said, thanks. We really appreciate it. It means a lot to the program, but don't forget about William Privet. He leads the country in whip. So that was – and he does. Doesn't he still lead the country in whip at like 0.84 or 9 or something?
I mean, I hadn't looked at that lately, but it's up there. I mean, that kid's something else. I mean, wow. He's one of the joys of being able to coach. I mean, that's one of the true joys. I mean, he works extremely hard. He wants to be a doctor. I think he made an A in organic chemistry. I mean, the kids don't start in all aspects. And one of our hardest workers, one of our cleanest cut kids, one of our best students. I mean, one of our most unflappable kids, one of our best competitors. I mean, kid checks all the boxes. I mean, I don't know. He might be. There's no doubt in my mind he's one of the best pitchers in the country. I mean, I know that's putting he's special, and he'll go to the Cape Cod League this summer after our regular season's done, and I think he's going to be an All-American this year. I think he's halfway through the season. I think he's an All-American, and I hate to put limits. I mean, hanging awards on him and making him feel the heat on that, but he don't listen to that anyway. So that makes me feel comfortable doing it. But he's had an incredible first half of the year, and he's all that's what's right about college athletics. And like I said, he'll go up to the Cape this summer, and they'll find out with his wooden bats he ain't fun to hit against up there either. And he's been special. I feel like there's been a couple of times in my coaching career when you hand the ball over to a kid in the 8th or 9th inning, you feel really good about your chances of winning. And, most of the time coaches are worry warts and scared to death that, we're getting ready to blow the game. But some reason when you give the ball to William Privet, you feel like the game's under control just because of who he is. Had the same feeling when we had Matt Price at South Carolina. You give them the ball and you feel like you got a chance. You feel like they're going to have to do something special to beat you. And that's a comforting feeling as a coach when you give a ball, to a pitcher that has that you have that much confidence in.
Yeah, no, there's no question. This cat, 0.7 ERA and 25 2/3 innings pitched, 17 hits, 2 earned, 7 walks, 35 strikeouts, and there's that whip 0.94, which is unbelievable. He also, by the way, has 4 saves. And if you ever get mentioned in the same breath as Matt Price, you're probably okay. I know this kid's taller than Matt. Matty was only about 5'10", 5'11". This dude's big. How big is he? 6'5"?
Yeah, he's a big boy. He's probably 6'4", but he looked like a he looks like a tight end. Him and Daniel Brooks, they could be tight ends on both sides of the line of scrimmage. I mean, they look good. Boy. They work hard in the weight room. They take a lot of pride in their craft, and it's kind of cool to watch Privet and a lot of our guys, Ty Good, and a lot of them go about their business. They've special group to be around, and I'm awfully lucky, and I hope the last half of this year they throw up to their ability. If they do, we'll have some happy days on the baseball field.
No question. No question. We've kept you a long time. You got Hofstra this weekend. You'll get on the road and look for another sweep to keep cranking it up here in the CAA. 15-10 overall. 3-0 is that record after the sweep last weekend against Northeastern, Coach. And we always are pulling for you and always are wishing you the best. And you give our best to your family, your wife, and your boys. And we will hope to see you here very, very. I have my mother-in-law coming to town for 10 days. And then we got other people coming to town for another week. So let's see how many games you play at home, because I'm going to be at all of them. Especially when
you might need to get out of the house, man. You might need some reasons. So
oh, perfect.
Hey, I'm gonna go to the park.
Hey, she comes in on April 8th, so I'll see you the 8th, 9th, 10th. I could definitely get to the Citadel on the 12th, and the following weekend too. This is great. So I'll see you 7 times that week. You just keep me on the list.
Well, sounds great, guys, and thank you guys so much for having us. It means the world to our program, and look forward to seeing you out in the park real soon.
You got it, Coach. Thank you. Give our best to Miss Jennifer. Thanks, ma'am.
We will. Thank you. Bye-bye.
There you go. Chad Holbrook, the head baseball coach of the College of Charleston Cougars. And they are tough loss last night. Charlotte's really good, and Woodard is the coach, as he mentioned. Yeah, they've beat a lot of good teams already this year. Hopefully they'll keep that going. I'd say let's just bring JC in, but we'll just do that. We'll just do it. No, go ahead. Just pop him in.
Throw him around.
We're short on time with him anyways, and I'll just pee my pants. It's no big deal. We'll head to shoot.
In your pants is cool. Call me Miles Davis. Remember that for Billy Madison?
That's right. It's one of the great lines ever, man.
Everybody's peeing their pants. Of course it is.
Well, we got a lot to get to today, JC. First and foremost, though, is our man.
No,
the Chief.
Yeah, I had mixed feelings.
I do too. Hey, look, there's a lot of people. I get it. That would be so. I'd be so upset. The other side of it is, if I was there at church and I had a concert playing the night that Clemson and Carolina played in the college football playoff, I'm canceling that. I'm going to the playoff game.
That's what hit me. All right, so at first I read it and I was like, "You're a North Carolina fan." I was like, this is nothing special that they're going to the Final Four. They go almost every year. I was like, I mean, if you were a Loyola fan or a George Mason fan or a Gamecock or something like that, I was like, but you're a North Carolina fan. I was like, and then I was talking to my girlfriend about it, and I was like, I'm not mad. I still love Eric Church. I said, if I lived in San Antonio, I'd be upset. Isn't that where the show was that he canceled? Yeah. San Antonio? I was like, and then it hit me. And it got lost on me. They were playing Duke. And then I was like, well, that's, that's a little, I backtracked on it completely, because I did start thinking about it. If Clemson and South Carolina were in the college football playoff semis,
you'd cancel everything.
I'd probably, and it's UNC and Duke, and the Tar Heels got them pretty good last time they played. They ruined Coach K's final home game. I mean, that's just going to be a great Titanic battle. And thinking about the actual matchup, I was like, well, that's cool. I was like, at first it got lost on me. They were playing Duke, and I was like, North Carolina goes almost every other year. I mean, I'm like, they're an 8 seed this year. I think the last 2 times they've been an 8 seed, they've gone, if I'm not mistaken. But Bill Guthridge took them to the Final Four as an 8 seed. But then I started when I realized it was Duke, and that had never happened. And here it is, Coach K's last year. I mean, that's history. And I think anytime you get to witness history and you're a passionate fan, I think you do have to make that call and go. And I know Eric Church loves his fans to death, and I'm sure he'll make the show up and all that good stuff.
I have all the faith in the world that he'll make it up to him somehow. They probably haven't announced anything because there's nothing to announce.
Yeah.
But I mean, you think about it all, and he's not, dude, it's not like he's going to be like, all right, honey, we got a deal. We got $200 tickets. That's all we can afford in the nosebleed. It's Eric Church. He's probably going to be on the court. He might be sitting with the team on the bench. I mean, like this cat's he's going to do whatever he wants to do. He's going to go there and he's going to live the entire dream.
Yeah.
And this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's not happening again because Coach K is retiring. Maybe they do play in the Final Four one day, but not with Coach K.
Yeah,
So,
and look, New Orleans is a special place for Tar Heel basketball fans. I mean, Jordan Schott was there. If I'm not mistaken, the Michigan timeout game in New Orleans when North Carolina won. You know, they've won two national titles there at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, as it's called now. I mean, it's kind of like Clemson and the old Orange Bowl or Miami in general in football. Lots of special memories in New Orleans for the North Carolina Tar Heels, and this is just going to add to it. It's going to be an epic game. And like I said, before I started really thinking about the historical aspect of it and the opponent, I was a little bit like, well, this is a typical North Carolina fan. I was like, I was a little disappointed, but then I was like, no. And I realized, well, this is never going to happen again with Coach K retiring. And it's the best rivalry in college basketball. So, and it's never happened. Ironically, it's happening now. And if you're a Tar Heel or a Blue Devil, I think you need to go. I don't blame him. So I reversed course in like 20 minutes.
If I was the Chief, I would have been. Well, Chief wouldn't want to do it, but it'd be neat if he reached out and was like, "Hey, I'll do a quick one song concert in front of the park and just play Carolina, and that'd be it. Just do one song, 4 minutes. It's over."
Tell my girlfriend today before I reversed course on that. I was like, that song Carolina, it's not even about where I'm from.
No,
it's not about my state. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. Let's think about this, JC. So it was one of those things. I've been tied up with a lot of Gamecock politics, I guess, today.
Yeah. You don't say, huh?
And so I guess I just kind of flew off the handle. But sorry, Chief. I understand now. And trust me, I would be there if I were in his shoes.
Yeah, don't.
That apology means the world to him.
Well, he's a big fan of this show.
Yes,
so
I know.
I'm sure he watches. I'm sure he's there right now.
Yeah,
he's on his private jet heading to New Orleans, watching it on the stream, on the app. I bet he's got the app.
Oh, he does. He's got the app. Yeah, they actually have one of our posters on their bus. It's pretty cool. We signed it.
Good.
And, really, really kind of him to support us like that and continue to charge me for all the tickets that I buy every year.
Yeah, I mean, Knives of New Orleans is about me.
Maybe he'll play that while he's down
there. The time I killed that guy, he wrote it about me. I'm kidding. I didn't kill anybody.
Oh, man. All right, JC, 1247 here on this Wednesday afternoon. So I have a lot I want to talk to you about with this Board of Trustees stuff, but we have 13 minutes left before we need to go to break, actually less than that. So we're going to keep that until our second part of our segment to start hour number 2, because the last couple of days in Columbia has created a lot of uncertainty for the future of the athletics department, if you ask my opinion, and certainly a lot of uncertainty for the future of many of those who've been on the Board of Trustees for extended periods of time. That their time might be over if certain people get their way. So we'll see. But we're going to hold that conversation. We'll lead off with basketball. It looks like, per reports out there, Chattanooga is now going to hire VMI's head basketball coach. And I know that
Penn Stater.
Coach Perry. I'm sorry?
Penn Stater, Dan Earl.
Oh, is he really? I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, he's done an outstanding job at VMI. And so he's going to go to Chattanooga. And I know that Coach Paris had mentioned last week that he, in order to fill out his staff, he kind of needed to wait and see some things that would happen. He had a guy on staff at Chattanooga who was in contention to get that job. Well, clearly he's not getting it. So have you heard any word on filling out his staff? And is it likely, JC, that whomever he was discussing at Chattanooga, who was already with him, will now be making the 5-hour trip to Columbia?
Yeah, and then that's common, and I think that's a pretty good thing as far as some continuity, familiarity. I mean, most basketball coaches do bring guys with them. I think Tanner Bronson will be his guy that he brings. He's a Wisconsin native, worked at UNLV, worked at St. Louis, worked in the G League back in the day. Has kind of paid his dues and done some things, and certainly was a good recruiter for Lamont Paris there, and seems like an up and comer. And so I think that will probably be one. I spoke with a source familiar with kind of the workings of how Lamont Paris has put it together the other day. And while I didn't get any names outside of Bronson, I do think there'll be some interviews in New Orleans. In basketball, football, you have like a coaches convention it's not kind of around a game or anything. That they have it in January. It's usually like Nashville or San Antonio or someplace like that. Basketball, they have their coaches convention during the Final Four at the Final Four site. And I think this year everybody kind of was in a hurry, but usually you see a lot of coaching jobs filled with interviews that take place at the Final Four. Obviously, I think we're in an accelerated world nowadays with the transfer portal, so maybe that's not ever going to be the case again. But certainly assistant coaches and things like that, and Lamont Paris is no different. I think that you'll probably hear some rumblings coming out from down there about Gamecock assistants with basketball. But I think Tanner Bronson's probably a safe bet to join the staff now that Chattanooga has hired the VMI coach. VMI beat Chattanooga at home this year in Chattanooga. And that's probably all of their athletic. I mean, those are tough jobs at VMI, man. VMI's a tough gig, dude. I think it's tougher than Citadel if you're talking about military schools. And he was really good there, for basketball. So I think that that's probably a pretty good hire by Chattanooga. And so lucky for the Gamecocks, they get what I believe to be Tanner Bronson.
Excuse me. By the way, that makes Darren, if I missed one somewhere, let me know. But this will now make 3 openings in the SoCon this year. Which, by the way, Coach Conroy is going to join us tomorrow on our program.
He will be at the Final Four.
He'll be at the Final Four. We're getting a live update from the Final Four. He'll be down there with Eric Church, as a matter of fact. We'll see if he can track him down and make that a dual segment. But VMI, the Citadel, and Chattanooga, those 3 are the only that I know of in the SoCon, right?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay.
I don't think there was a change anywhere else.
All right. I wonder if
Wofford's having its whole team transfer, but they haven't made a coach.
Well, now that the Citadel hired an old coach, I wonder if VMI will bring back Duggar.
Wonder.
I don't know. I'm just saying. And there's been every team in the SEC has had an opening this year, literally every one. Have you heard any news about retaining anybody? I know last week we talked. Was it last week, Darren, or maybe the week before? We talked to JR, John Reynolds, who'd been an assistant under Frank Martin, and the entire staff had been let go by Coach Tanner. But this young man is an up and comer. He's going to land a gig, and they were really high on Brian Steele. A lot of the talk behind the steel curtain, JC, is that you like that, huh? Is that Brian has gotten in really into some we've gotten into a lot of doors in South Carolina. He's developed wonderful relationships with AAU coaches and high school coaches and parents and some of the top prospects. And by all accounts, he's looking for a job. So have you heard anything about Lamont Paris potentially maybe retaining a guy or two from Frank's staff, or is it just going to be clean cut?
Everybody's gone. So if he would have to rehire them, but I don't anticipate that happening. I think it's a clean break. I believe that I think it's by design. I think that's what the administration wanted. Just a clean break from everything. And from what I've been reading, Brian Steele and Chuck Martin and Will Bailey, I think is his name. I always forget his name. He's got a common name. I forget. Will Bailey, I think.
Will Bailey, yeah, from St. Louis.
I think Bailey's probably going with Frank to UMass. Chuck Martin may go to UMass or Oregon, and then Brian Steele's probably going to latch back up with, from what I read, and this is just rumor, his old boss at Queens. I don't know about Reynolds. The rest of those guys, Doug Edwards, those guys are. I would think they're going with Frank. The one guy I haven't heard about the strength coach Greenwald, But my opinion, or from what I hear on that, or what John Whittle wrote on the Big Spur, is that guy can probably write his ticket to anywhere he wants. He's a great strength coach, and he actually has turned down some opportunities elsewhere. So they're all going to be okay. But I think they wanted a fresh start, and they're going to get it in a lot of ways, and roster player wise included. It's going to be a whole new outfit for South Carolina men's basketball next year.
Where are they? I know that he's met with G.G. Jackson. Lamont Paris has. What do you hear in there as far as what type of impact he was able to have on this young man's future? And Julian Phillips is still floating around out there. The young man from Blythewood got out of his NLI with LSU. Has there been any contact there that you're aware of?
With Gigi, I know he did meet with the family. I think there's probably the door's cracked. I'd still at this point, just because of the groundwork that was laid by the previous staff and this being a new staff, maybe if Gigi does not reclassify and just goes back, plays high school ball next year, there's still some time. I do think they're considering South Carolina again, but I'm just not confident it's going to happen. I hope so. That would be a heck of a pull. It would have been a heck of a pull for Frank Martin, but I just think that with coaching changes, it may be a little too late. And I'll say this too, though. North Carolina has a new coach. Duke has a new coach after this year. Julian Phillips, the hot rumor on the internet is Auburn is pushing for him. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see these guys end up at Auburn.
Both of them?
Both of them.
Holy smokes.
At the end of the day. And that's just kind of a gut feeling. It's not really a sourced information other than the Phillips talk, but watch out for them. Auburn, you remember, I guess when I was a kid in Spartanburg, Stephen Davis and Damone Fields were big time recruits, and they went to Auburn together at the end. So I wouldn't count them out. They got a good thing going down there. It's close to home. That the successful program. Bruce Pearl's a hell of a recruiter. I mean, that kind of thing. But I do think meeting with Lamont Paris had somewhat of an impact on Jackson. He's going to go meet his mom, and so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. You take your swing there. I mean, it's just awfully difficult coming in, hitting the ground running after a coaching change like that, when most of the team is transferred out now. And you don't know who you're going to be playing with, if you're going to come in next year, and all this stuff. I mean, transition and uncertainty kills recruiting most of the time in any sport, because recruiting decisions are based on comfort level, and when everything's uncertain, you're obviously not going to be comfortable. So that's kind of my take on that, what I'm hearing on that. By the way, it's the Caesars Superdome now, not the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. I was reminded of that. So sorry, I apologize to Caesars Gaming and the great people out in Las Vegas that run that show.
Yeah, their ownership in the Harrah's Cherokee Casino as well, where I took my kids this weekend. Great parenting. We were in the casino. We were actually in the arcade, but
they got an arcade, man.
It's an outstanding arcade. The kids love it. I actually asked the guy. I said, "Look, I'm just gonna be honest with you here. They didn't bring their fakes, but they're 21."
They're like, yeah, okay, come in.
Right on. He's like, I believe you,
dude.
I actually thought maybe there'd be some humor in that. I said it that way because it doesn't make any sense. They didn't bring their fakes, but they're 21. And he just looked at me. He goes, "Well, they can't come in." I said, "No kidding. We're going upstairs to the arcade."
I saw Ron White at the Harrah's Cherokee Casino. Cherokee.
Yeah. You know what? We were there Saturday morning. I didn't even realize it. Had I known this, I would have found somebody in Maggie to come babysit for me. The Friday night, right before I got there, 10 hours before I got there, he pulled out Travis Tritt. You got to be kidding me. One of my all-time favorites.
Great day to be alive, brother.
I know. I was banging my head against the wall.
Maggie Valley, last time I was there, I took a video of that old Ghost Town in the Sky chairlift. Yep. It was foggy.
Yep.
I got to do something with that picture. That's got to be an album cover or book cover or something. It creeps me out every time I think about it. But really a fan of Maggie Valley, North Carolina, though, and that whole area.
Yeah, we're right next to that. Our house is right next to that. We can see the gondola. How about that? All right, got to go to a break, JC. But you're coming back for segment 2, right?
Absolutely.
Like you don't have like JG and Goldwater or something like that.
JG and Goldwater is that's next.
Right. All right. Hang tight. We will get into a lot of Carolina football and BOT stuff when we return here on the JB and Goldwater Show. Right here in our backyard is Motley Rice LLC, a law firm that hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for South Carolinians who were injured while traveling by plane or bus, harmed by medical drugs and devices, or burdened by dangerous auto recalls, including Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. We are honored to have Motley Rice as a sponsor for the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work, and to others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the national anthem.
Be ready be ready in 35 minutes. Because I got a really important phone call I got to take this afternoon, and I can't talk on the phone in my car. But yeah, I'll take you over there. Okay.
Live, loud, and online.
I guess he He Eric Churched us.
He did. He's heading to the Final Four. He's going to be back, though.
He chiefed us. Eric Shurburtt has taken off. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I'm back.
He reconsidered.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I had to
take a break.
Got to take the middle schooler to his friends, and I said after this show I will. And then I had to go to the bathroom. He jumped to the bathroom, washing his hair. You know, I think there's girls that are going to be there.
Yeah.
So,
girls.
And then the other bathroom's way downstairs, so I kind of just snuck out of the outhouse, if you will.
Yeah, there you go. I hear you. Nothing better than going off your back porch, JC. All right, it's 1:05 here on a Wednesday afternoon. Only one day left in the mighty month of March, and then it's on to April.
Beware the Ides of March.
Darren and I here in the Low Country, we know how it is. Darren, you get through March, it's like, oh man, spring is back. It's April.
It's summer.
90. So, matter of fact, I just learned that our neighborhood pool is opening this Sunday. No, what's today? Friday. It's opening Friday. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, if my kids think they're going in the pool, no. You got a while. My water's a little chilly. Let me remind you again that Friday and Saturday is the Wando Power Spring Open House. Wando Power Equipment on Daniel Island, wandopower.com. So these four things, they only happen once a year, and they put it all together and do an open house. That's why they do this at Wando Power Equipment. So anything you need, whether it's a commercial mower or a chainsaw or a weed whacker or a trailer or whatever, they got it all over there. 15% off Echo X Series equipment. I have an Echo 400 chainsaw, and I can tell you I love it. So you might want to check that out if you need one. Hurricane season is right around the corner, and if a tree falls on your house, you got to get it off. So make sure you have a chainsaw. 15% off all Shindawa equipment. 20% off of Red Max equipment. That's an outstanding deal. And then they have their promo pricing on select Hustler equipment. And what that means is it's prices that are decided by Hustler. So they don't have the influence on it, but they're basically entry level prices before they jump them up to their normal spots. They will have lunch both days at Wando Power Equipment, and there are door prizes there. It's not like a bouncy ball or anything like that. Like, you're going to get real stuff, which is great over there. The Price family owns it. Polk and Harrison, those guys are outstanding. Even though they're Clemson fans, they're outstanding people, and I love them dearly. And so you get over there and see them this weekend on Daniel and get you some lunch and buy a man thing at Wando Power Equipment at their spring open house. All right, JC. So look, man, I went back and watched Jamie. You're right. I've already had to do that, and I got to do it again. I went back and watched every bit of the BOT hearings.
I'm in the middle of Charles Williams.
Yeah,
right now.
You're just getting going.
Well, no, but Whittle's watched a lot of it, and I've been talking to some folks. So,
look, man, I
can imagine
you and I, and it's great to have Darren in the middle of this too, because I know, Darren, you haven't seen the first second of any of these. You don't know any of these board members, but you're a neutral observer, and there needs to be some neutrality in the conversations that are had with all of this. There's 1,000 ways to have these conversations. My personal way is I think that everybody in there has their own agenda. I don't trust most of the people that are up there in the legislative committee, one in particular. And it's not because he's a Clemson fan. I think that Dick Harpootlian has a lot of reasons for a lot of things he does, and I don't think it has anything to do with he's a Clemson fan over a South Carolina fan. I think that all these BOT guys have their own ordeals. Some of them have been doing it a long time, like Eddie Floyd. Some of them are new, so and JC, if what they've testified is true, we've found out a lot of information in the last 48 hours about a lot of things that have happened. The one thing I'll say, and this is kind of how I'll start, and you can run with it wherever you want to. I don't like, what I don't like is how Coach Tanner is being yanked into this, because you got this group of people up here basically trying to pin these guys down and either blame it on Coach Tanner. I'm talking about buyouts. These guys clearly have no idea how buyouts work and what they're in place for. They have no idea. So they're basically trying to pin this on Coach Tanner has no idea what he's doing, or Coach Tanner's gone rogue. And neither one of those are true. All right. We can argue the decisions he's made, but financially, JC, you've been doing this a long time. Contracts have buyouts, period, the end. And in the SEC, they have buyouts. And sometimes you can't get around them. So I don't know. We'll start there and you take over.
Yeah, look, the buyout thing is a little bit ridiculous. And like I said, I'm through Charles Williams, and, there's some things Charles Williams, and I don't know him. And this is the problem, because I deal with the fan base at large with my website, my business, whatever. And so, these guys all have friends. They're all Gamecocks. And so you have to be careful. I have to be careful about calling people names, and say, I don't want to say somebody. I think I could say somebody acted like a blithering idiot, but they're not. These people aren't blithering idiots. I mean, I kind of get where they're coming from.
Sure.
But he made the big grandstanding gesture over the Lamont Paris contract, which is ridiculous. I mean, it's just, that was a standard contract that actually, you're probably not going, barring misconduct, which would mean you fired him with cause and don't owe him anything. You're probably not going to think about firing him for a couple of years, right? At least 2. And the buyout goes down to $2 million. It's next to nothing. The Frank Martin buyout was completely covered this year by university funds. The university's athletic department is a money-making machine, and it's going to make even more money. I don't know if most people know this. We had a once in 100-year pandemic where the government shut everything down, and we had to have limited crowds. And look, TV money does make up a big part of the revenue, but so do ticket sales, so do concessions, game day operations. That all that stuff feeds into the budget, and there was a budget shortfall. Now, what I think is disingenuous is some of these guys getting in front of the state legislature and in front of Dick Harpootlian and all these other guys and acting like they had no idea Will Muschamp was getting fired, that they had no idea that this was, oh my God, I can't believe we did this.
Right.
That is a pile of dung. Trust me on this. I mean, I know how this school operates. I've been around it my entire life. I've been told by people that would know that is a lie. Okay. Now, they're under oath, so I don't want to get anybody in legal trouble. Maybe their understanding the way they remember it now is different, but there is no way on God's. I mean, look, people say that the state government stopped them from firing Frank Martin last year. No, the Board of Trustees did because of influence from the state government. But the board, you don't spend that kind of money without the board knowing. They have to approve all contracts over $200,000. And I guess, look, since Muschamp's contract had previously been approved and you're technically just paying out the contract, I suppose it's plausible that you didn't have to have a vote to pay it out. But they had to be aware of it. Nobody's going to spend that kind of money during a pandemic and make the people, the governing body, the oversight body of the university, read about it in the newspaper. That's preposterous. That's preposterous. I wish it were that way. I mean, I wish South Carolina had a setup like Florida and Georgia, where basically the AD answers to the president and the president answers to his people. But any kind of board for the university is separate from athletics. You have your own athletics board. Another part about the Williams interview I thought was interesting is they don't have an athletics committee on the board of trustees anymore. So anything with athletics has to go through all 22 people.
All of them.
I mean, that's no way to operate. And look, I'm not defending Ray Tanner's hires. Okay. I'm not defending. I mean, obviously it's a zero-sum game. You hired Will Muschamp. I think we all knew how that could work. There's some questions as to whether or not it failed. Period. Gone. Okay. Now they decided to fire Frank Martin. He didn't hire Frank Martin. So, there's that. And then we have the current Kingston situation, after Holbrook or whatever in baseball. But, some people act like it's Auburn and the university spent $75 million for a football coaching change after a winning season. And that's just not accurate. That's just not true. And, the problem is that I think with some of these guys, and they've been around a while. And look, I'm not saying that people that are in their 70s have no business being on a board. I have massive respect for anybody that's a Gamecock fan that's been around that long. They've seen a lot of bad football, a lot of bad basketball, and a lot of good times too. But I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding, and it's probably because, we're 30 years into this SEC thing. So it's not been as long as maybe some other people that grew up understanding about it, like at Auburn or wherever. South Carolina's in the Southeastern Conference. And so things like this, compared to South Carolina's peers, Tennessee, Auburn, we'll go through it. Alabama's fired how many basketball coaches till they landed on Nate Oates? LSU, the team South Carolina must compete. Georgia fired Mark Richt after 10-win season. I mean, the team South Carolina has to compete against and allegedly beat on the field or the court or wherever, it's a lot more egregious. Arkansas fired a head coach after 2 years at football. Paid him a bunch money to go away. So Texas A&M is guaranteed a coach a contract for $81 million, no matter what. I mean, and these are and God knows Texas is about to come in the league, and that's oil money. That's a lot of oil money, in Oklahoma as well. So you have to have a fundamental understanding, I think, these days that you can't sit there and compare yourself to Clemson all the time. And that's nothing against Clemson. Obviously, South Carolina wants to beat Clemson. Obviously, they're the rival. I mean, obviously, things are not good right now in that category. But University of South Carolina operates in a fundamentally different environment than the ACC. This is the SEC. And the things that have taken place, are not egregious when you compare them to South Carolina's peer schools. That's number one. And I think that there needs to be a wake-up call across. And look, to the Board of Trustees and University Leadership's credit, okay, there has been. I mean, spending money on a facility like the long operations building, pumping money into the stadium, that kind of thing from athletics and improving all that and getting behind it. That's been great, and so it's not a complete lost cause. But when you sit here and get in front of the state government, the oversight committee, and you start kind of acting like you don't know what's going on, that's just not true. It's not true. And if you come out against it publicly, then you really you lack a fundamental understanding of the price of doing business in a big time athletics conference like the SEC. And look, what happened with Will Muschamp, I think Ray Tanner maybe should have thought better about extending him another year and kicking that contract to 6 instead of 5 after the 7-6 season in 2018. That season did not end well. There were issues on defense. They lost the bowl game. I can get behind some criticism of Ray Tanner for that. And it was costly, because there was really no need for a 6-year deal at that point for Will. But, what are you going to do? I mean, it was a mistake. It's over. It's done with. I think some private funds covered maybe the part of it that was egregious, and the rest of it was a pretty standard buyout. And so, these people that are sitting there talking to the state government saying, well, I just would have kept Will Muschamp and just,
that's a lie.
Yeah, that's not true.
That's such a lie. That's JC. because I'm with you. I don't have a problem with people wanting to criticize some of the deals that Coach Tanner has made. That's
Sure.
fair game. He's the athletics director. That's fair game. Okay. I don't agree with what is said about Coach Tanner a lot of times. I think people get really personal and they shouldn't.
Yeah.
And he has not failed in everything that he's done, even though some people think that he has. It's just not true. But when you have the board of trustees, some of these people basically, if you go watch it, and it takes a long time to watch it, but it's incredibly interesting, basically inferring that Coach Tanner is going rogue. Oh, well, we get this after it's done. You know, I give Dick Harpootlian credit. He is an attorney. And he's sitting here going, well, now, wait a second. You're telling me that you approve and disapprove these contracts, but you're approving them after they're already approved? So, you know, and I'm not trying to hammer down BOT guys. And let me tell you why. Eddie Floyd has given more money and time and effort and energy to the University of South Carolina than everybody that's ever listened or watched our program combined, unless he's watched it. I mean, Eddie Floyd, the Floyd family has done so much for the Gamecocks. There's a lot of people on that board that have done a ton for the Gamecocks because they love the Gamecocks. Joe Rice, who's a part of our program, boy, he's done a lot for the Gamecocks.
Yeah.
Right? You know, so there's a lot of people that do a lot of stuff and they write a lot of big checks. And I have the utmost respect for those people. So this is nothing personal. And I actually think Eddie Floyd was as honest with anybody yesterday, especially when he was telling everybody, well, I got a friend who needed a kid to get into school, so I made a phone call. Whoa, Eddie.
Yeah.
Now is not the time. But you can't say that your athletics director is going rogue. That's not true.
And it's just
not
true.
true.
If anything,
These guys know what the truth is. They're trying to cover their own ass so it doesn't get flipped over on them. And that's not true.
Board of Trustees pushed. All right, let's go back to when Tanner was hired, right? Tanner was hired after Hyman left. And let's just say he had a ton of support from the Board of Trustees to get the job.
Yes.
And there is a reason for that. And I'm not saying the board controls Ray or anything like that. I'm saying that they kind of like the fact that they had his ear because he did a great job establishing relationships with those guys as the baseball coach. And there hasn't been that much turnover, on the board. And, it was shocking to hear some of that testimony from some of these folks. And it kind of made me feel sad in a lot of ways because you look at it and these guys, like you said, they're all a bunch of good Gamecocks, loyal fans. There's nobody on earth that would probably rather see Carolina win than these guys,
Yeah.
But as far as understanding like what life is like in this conference, and no, Clemson hadn't had to pay buyout. Clemson didn't fire anybody during the pandemic.
No. Hey, by the way, in my response to some of that yesterday, if they were asking me about buyouts, I would have said this. Well, let me tell you something. If Dabo Swinney goes 0-12 this year, which is very unlikely, by the way, but if they go 0-12 this year or 2-10, and Clemson says that's it, we can't do this. We haven't won a national championship in 4 years. And we're firing Dabo Swinney. You know how much you owe him? $45 million. So don't talk to me about buyouts.
Dabo's buyouts insane.
What idiot got him into $100 million buyout that comes down every year at Clemson? You never know when it goes off the tracks.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Listen, but Clemson. All right, so during the pandemic, Clemson went to the playoff in football and in men's basketball. Brownell had one of his years where he gets to the NCAA tournament, which he's done like 3 times in 11 years or whatever, and they're happy with that. They beat, happy beating South Carolina in basketball. And I guess there's really nobody on the hot seat up there. I mean, it's apples to oranges. And on top of that, too, I do think you do have to understand that it's a different type of competitive situation that South Carolina's in, having to compete with not only their in-state rival, but the Southeastern Conference. And I don't think that it's right to sit there and compare operationally. And I'm not talking about any kind of game on the field or results or anything, but operationally to compare South Carolina to Clemson. It's a different beast. It's a different school. There are different. It's a different conference. Dabo's even said this about the two schools, that they're different, and so, in my opinion, that, you sit there, you can't play the Clemson Carolina card when you're talking about this. And what I wanted to hear one of those guys say is, hey, this is the price of doing business in this athletic conference. Dick Harpootlian, I don't know. I haven't seen the books, but I would venture to say that his comment, Dick Harpootlian's comment about them using appropriated funds, i.e. funds from the state. I read 13% of the University of South Carolina's total operating budget and expenses come from the state. That's 13%. Do you really think that $10 million that allegedly sort of trickled down to Muschamp's buyout came from state appropriations, or did it come from money the university's raised, or the endowment, or a number of other things? Do you think it came out of taxpayer money? I don't know. I would like to, and I would have asked him for proof of that.
Yeah.
I would have said, well, Dick, if you have proof of that, let me know. Yeah. And I would have also said, look, this is the price of doing business in the Southeastern Conference. The athletic directors, even the best ones, make bad hires and have to fire coaches and move on. That's just the way it is. And, and it's no different at South Carolina than anywhere else. This athletic department is not only self-sustained most years, with the exception of the, once in a 100-year pandemic that hit where everybody was losing money. And it was kind of bad. I don't think you ever want Charles Williams to be explaining the ins and outs of the SEC loan process, not because he obviously didn't know. Obviously he wasn't reading or something. It was kind of a bad explanation. Everybody had to get that money. Everybody needed a little help. I mean, Wake Forest University fired Danny Manning in the summer of 2020 and paid him $15 million to go away. So, that's about what the Frank Martin and Will Muschamp buyout was combined. So nobody really understands that. They also don't understand this. Texas and Oklahoma are coming into the league. The record-setting TV money pot is getting even bigger. And then beyond that, when Disney and ESPN take over the SEC Game of the Week from CBS, that deal's worth probably an extra, $20 million a school?
Yeah.
So it's really a drop in the bucket. And then you move forward, and nobody that I've seen so far on this video brought this up and hammered this home to the committee, because honestly, these folks are scared. They're scared of losing their seats. And so it's almost like they're
you're talking about the BOT.
The BOT guys, they're like at the mercy of the court, throwing themselves at the mercy of the court, like Charlie Brown on Bon Voyage Charlie Brown when he goes through customs unnecessarily. Throw myself at the mercy of the court. No, what you need to say is, look, man, okay, so they borrowed $10 million from the university. How many millions has athletics given back to the academic end of the university?
Yeah,
and that's just,
and the whole state,
and that's the whole. And Jimmy, that's just whole cold hard cash, right?
Yeah,
that's just cash. I'm not talking about the residual economic impact of Carolina athletics, not only on Columbia but the entire state. And the massive fundraising ability that athletics helps with everything else in the school. You look at it, and athletics really has not been that, look, there's a difference between being mismanaged and then competitive situations and coaching searches and stuff like that. The athletics department didn't piss off Darla Moore. They didn't piss off Kennedy. They did. I mean, $200 million plus people that love the university that want to help the academic end. They didn't piss those people off. Athletics didn't do that, and they're sitting there throwing, Ray under the bus and all that. Now, Ray is not above criticism. He's not perfect. I was very critical of how this basketball search went this past time, but there seems to be a lot of self-serving selective memory by some of these guys, in the interest of holding on to their little bit of power. And that does no good, I think, for anybody. And you're going to let somebody like Dick Harpootlian right off into the sunset of his political career with a bunch of scalps and bragging to all his buddies from where he went to undergrad that he got the USC Board of Trustees restructured and all that. And hopefully he uses the word fix, because if he can, I don't care who fixes it, fix it. But, that's what's happening here is that, these guys, in the interest of retaining their seats, are just painting a picture of gross incompetence and making not only themselves look bad, but everybody else in the process. And then that hurts athletics. I mean, you start getting out there saying, well, if you go coach at South Carolina, you're probably not going to get your money because they're not going to give you a buyout because their state government won't let you.
Right.
And
how fast do you want to tear it down, guys?
Yeah, buyouts are just part of life, man, in major college athletics. And I mean, you have a problem with that, take it up with the agents. It's not the coaches, not the ADs,
But that's the point. Like, where you said apples and oranges earlier, and that's spot on. Okay, we can argue about whether they're good deals or not, but you can't argue about whether there should or shouldn't be buyouts, because the state legislature has no control over that. There is none. You have none. The athletics department has no control over that. They're there. They're not going away. It doesn't matter who you hire, right? You can argue the deal and whether or not Coach Tanner negotiated a good deal and Chance Miller and their attorneys. That's fine. That's fair game. That's up for argument. But you can't sit up here behind a desk when you've never done it and say things like, well, these buyouts are what's concerning to me, and you got board of trustees guys, like you mentioned, Mr. Williams, saying the same thing. Well, I voted, I'm done with the buyouts. Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're done with the buyouts. I'm done with the rain, but it's going to rain again tomorrow. I can't control that. So, I mean, I think when I see this, and somebody already said earlier, when you have politicians running anything, it's going to be a disaster. Yeah, because everybody's self-serving, and you got to be very. And on behalf of my dear friend Darren Goldwater here, I have to be very careful with what I say, because Dick Harpootlian will slap a lawsuit on you in a hurry. So I want to preface everything I say with how wonderful of a human being he is, and I'm so glad he lives outside of 5 Points and he can't stay. And the 5 Points thing's another disaster. JC, let's all be honest. Okay, let's be honest. All right, and he was all, not to get off on a crazy road here, but let's come on, guys. Let's use our freaking brains here. We know exactly what happened. All right, this guy didn't like it. Okay, he didn't like the fact there were kids walking through his yard and dropping beer cans and stuff like. I wouldn't like it either. Okay, so they go in there and they start investigating everything, and they close everybody down who's not up to who's not hitting code, and who doesn't agree to hit code, and he won't put a kitchen in, and this, that, and the other. Well, how'd they get there? Anybody want to answer that question? Was it maybe because they were bringing so much money in that local and state politics just let it slide as long as they let them get away with it for years? It happened when you were there, JC. It happened when I was there. It happened for 4 decades. Nobody ever closed any of these businesses. And all of a sudden, there's another interest involved, and all of a sudden, they're all the bad guys. Well, I'm not saying that they're not at fault. Like, they should be at fault. They didn't follow the law. The law says you have to do this. You're at fault. If you don't want to follow the law, then you're going to have to close down. That's totally true. But let's not act like it was all on them. I mean, they let them get away with it for 40 years. So, I mean, this is lunacy. I mean, all this stuff that's going on up there, and the BOT did nothing to help that, and I don't know what they could do, but they didn't do anything. The university did nothing to help it. And 5 Points has attracted students to this school for 50 years, 60 years.
Yeah,
they let it. They're all failing. They're all failing. And
university got behind the move to close the bar. Actually.
Oh yeah, like it was some big black eye on the school. Well, I'm sorry. There's people that chose the school because of 5 Points. Sorry that you don't like that, but it's true.
I mean, I wonder what they do on St. Patrick's Day in that neighborhood during the St. Patrick's Day celebration.
I'd put a concert right in Harpootlian's front yard. I would. I mean, look. At the end of the day, JC, you and I we're on the same page, because there's that you can These guys are arguing whether things should or shouldn't be in place, and there's no way around it. If you want to talk about the deals, that's fine. If you want to talk about whether BOT guys should or shouldn't be on the board, that's okay. You know, they're going back to this whole Caslin ordeal and how he got hired. Look, there was some sneaky stuff in there. The best testimony we heard on this, JC, was Eddie Floyd. And you know what Eddie Floyd said? He said the truth. You know what the truth was? The truth was that they had more votes for Caslin the first time around. They should have just gone through with it and voted. And then this thing would have been squashed and over with. Yeah, we would have still had to see what happened with his presidency, but there would have never been this 30-day waiting period of infighting and protests and all this other crap. And Eddie Floyd stopped that because the vote to get Caslin approved was like a 2 or 3 vote margin. So he stopped it. They went back through the process. The governor gets involved, and they end up hiring Caslin again, right? That's what happened. But as Eddie Floyd said yesterday, everybody's missing the point. If we would have just hired him the first time, we wouldn't have had a month and a half of bitching and moaning back and forth.
How much do other schools deal with it? Because this isn't something that translates really from market to market. If this story airs in Auburn or in Tuscaloosa, people are going to look at it, probably shrug their shoulders and say, okay, fine, typical. They probably won't even read it. They'll just say, behind the scenes stuff is a mess for South Carolina. Okay, we knew that. How much does this actually happen in other places and we don't hear about it? I mean, JC, this is more for you than probably for JB, just having
probably
been
Auburn.
And having been embedded, I guess, to a degree in other places. But I mean, this is obviously a black eye. I mean, whatever the intention here may or may not be, it's coming off as bad for everybody, including the school they're serving. So how much is this happening elsewhere, and what's the point?
I don't know how much you know about the Auburn Board of Trustees.
I mean, I know the boosters there are quite influential. Yes.
Yeah.
Jimmy Rain, Yellowwood, the Yellowwood man. Bobby Louder, I think, was a member. I don't think he's on the board anymore.
But do they air dirty laundry like this?
Auburn?
If they have these type meetings, you're going to get some of the same stuff.
When it gets to sports,
mm-hmm.
Yes. But they would never do anything like South Carolina. They would never go before the Alabama State. They aren't going down to Montgomery to try to save their own skin. They're Auburn men and women. They're going to stand up for their school.
Yeah, they're going to tell them. They're going to tell you to go screw yourself.
And to me, that was the spineless part of today was just a lot of self-preservation rather than, hey, Dick, look, you're barking up the wrong tree about these buyouts. This is the Southeastern Conference. The money is paid back in full. We did have a global pandemic, as you know. Look at school A, B, C, D, E. I'd use Auburn as an example. It cost them $75 million to get rid of a coach with a winning record. South Carolina was losing its butt on the Muschamp deal. They were awful. They were 2-8. The program had bottomed out. You're going to lose more money long term bringing him back.
That was brought up.
And then I would have said, and as far as Frank Martin's buyout goes, you guys got your wish last year. We didn't fire him. It was NCAA or bust. We needed a new direction, and that buyout's a drop in the bucket. And so is Lamont Paris's. And you can look at, and I would bring examples. These schools, this is the buyout. This is the coach. This is the buyout. This is the league we play in. I don't want to hear about buyouts anymore. And I would say that. I don't hear about buyouts anymore. You can make a big deal out of this all you want, but you're making a big deal out of something that's standard in Power 5 athletics, especially in the SEC. And I would tell everybody on that committee that's a South Carolina graduate, I'd be like, look, guys, you're proud Gamecocks. If this is a problem for you, then let's start a petition to downgrade athletics at South Carolina and get our butts in Conference USA.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're wanting. You want us to go compete and still play sports and win 7 games of football, make everybody happy, and downplay it, be competing with Coastal for players. Yeah, that'd get their goat right there. Then let's start a petition to get South Carolina in Conference USA or the Sun Belt, because that's exactly what you're acting like. And I would say I would have no conversation with them about athletics right now, because I don't think you have to justify it. Yeah, I just don't think there's anything to justify. I think Dick Harpootlian's barking up the wrong tree completely there. Now, does the Board of Trustees need to be restructured at South Carolina? Absolutely. It's too daggum big.
Yeah.
They need to break athletics.
Let me ask you real quick on that.
Yeah.
I just a couple of the things I had heard in the testimony was if they downsize JC that they would lose representation of different parts of the state. I don't. Is that true? I'm not sure
because the bill the bill that I read changes it from because right now it's by judicial circuits, right?
Right.
It changes it to congressional districts.
So you just have a larger area.
You just have a larger area. I mean, and to me, that makes sense. I can't even find a map of judicial circuits in South Carolina. And quite frankly, I don't think that's a bad idea. I honest to God think there's too many cooks in the kitchen at Carolina, and I think there always has been. I think you downsize the Board of Trustees, and then you move athletics to a model that's very similar to Florida and Georgia, two peer schools where they have athletics associations that have their own board.
Right.
And athletics is autonomous. And look, it's to the point where there's not going to need to be any state money anymore. Not even, they don't have to borrow the state had the bond reference to $200 million or whatever for Clemson and Carolina to build facilities. It's to the point with the TV money, the university athletics department can go do that themselves and get their own loans for $200 million. That's how much money is going to start flowing in soon. That $10 million is a drop in the bucket. That's political grandstanding and political grandstanding at best, cluelessness about big time college athletics at worst. And I do think, guys, that there does need to be reform on the board, taking it beyond sports, which is admittedly my primary interest, but I care about the school. I mean, we got a degree. You've got a thriving branch campus in the upstate that's doing well. You got a 4-year school in Aiken. You got all the other satellite campuses. You got the Columbia campus, which is a mess. And you've got a new president coming in. You have a lot of healing to do with top donors. It may be time to say, hey, we're going to restructure this bad boy. We're going to be selective about who we put on it. Here's how we're going to pick it. And it's time to streamline this thing and start to heal the Carolina community and figure out how we're going to take, this university forward, after what I can't even believe is another period of dysfunction. I thought we were past that. I thought the Holderman era and all that crap back in we're past that. Do you and by the way, I want to make sure we clarify something. You said the Columbia campus is a mess from a student perspective. It's doing outstanding. You're talking about leadership here. I mean, it's got the number one business school in the country. It's the number one sports and entertainment school in the country. I mean, it is outstanding from an academic standpoint. But you're talking about from a leadership perspective. Let me ask you this, JC. All of these guys, at least those who have been on the board, those who are fighting to retain their seats. You had a few of them who acknowledged certain things that they were asked. Like the plane ride to go meet with President Kaslan in Florida and this meeting in Atlanta and all these things. And then you had all these other guys that didn't go to those meetings and they were asked about them. I didn't know anything about it. Why didn't you go? Well, I didn't know anything about it. Do we really believe? Are we really buying this? That all these guys on the board, certain groups of people are going to meet with presidents and coaches and this, that, and the other, and flying on planes, and other guys didn't know anything about it? I mean, don't they all pretty much know what's going on? Yeah. I mean, Alex English, poor Alex English is standing up there, and they literally asked him, Did you go to Florida? No. Would you have gone to Florida? No. Why not? I don't like small planes, sir. Yeah. I thought, oh, thank God, Alex English. We finally have somebody being honest up here. One of the great guys in the whole state. But JC, you literally had a bunch of dudes throwing other dudes under the bus. Well, I didn't know anything about it. What do you mean you didn't know about it? You're on the board of trustees. Y'all talk every day. I mean, I don't like using the word lie because I think, obviously there's a lot of lawyers on the board. And,
yeah, careful.
You got to be careful about what technically is a lie and is not. But let's just say it was mispresented. Mispresented? Will that be a good word?
Misrepresented?
I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm through the Charles Williams one. I've heard about the other ones. But, the fact that Charles Williams got up there. And by the way, Charles Williams fought the good fight with the Caslin thing and all that. I don't dislike the guy. I don't know the guy. I mean, he's from Orangeburg. My grandmother's on my mom's side grew up in Orangeburg, Norway, South Carolina.
Oh, I've been pulled over in Norway.
It's near Denmark, South Carolina.
Yeah,
but
great area.
Look, man. I mean, I don't have anything against the guy. He kind of sounds like he'd be a pretty good lawyer if I was.
He also has a house in Maggie Valley.
I'd probably and Charleston. I found out today that was the first 10 minutes of his thing was about his wife's house, and they pay 6%. I was like, can I please? I'm just going to paint my wall and watch it dry while I listen to this.
I know,
but and Harpootlian, it actually made sense when he was anyway. So what I feel like is, these are some guys that sadly, and I'll use the term sadly because it is sad. I mean, these are not evil people. I mean, these are not swindlers and
this is about power. That's what it is.
These people, the folks on the BOT are probably just like, as far as being power, they're trying to protect their power, but they're also probably a little less scrupulous than that group sitting up in front of them, just to be honest, not collectively, because I'm sure there's some great guys. But what I think is going to happen is I think Jay Lucas, the Speaker of the House, hopefully as a South Carolina grad and somebody whose term's coming up, and he's a smart guy and a good Gamecock from what I understand, hopefully that he's going to get some folks together and make something happen on a bipartisan deal. Because I think at this point you got to do something, and there's going to be a restructuring, and it'll hopefully it makes sense, and hopefully that restructuring does include giving athletics some autonomy. I don't, I think if you keep the board as it is, right, they almost have to go fire Ray Tanner now, which I'm sure a lot of fans wouldn't blink at that, but to me, I mean, is that fair? Because you got up there and misrepresented what happened with the buyout and acted like Coach Tanner. Coach Tanner's not going rogue. I mean, he's if anything, he's been criticized for towing the company line.
I think if any people look, there might be, and we might have 1,000 people watching this program right now or listening who can't stand JC when I say something or you say something positive about Coach Tanner, because all they see is the outside. And I understand that. I'm not saying anybody's wrong. Okay, I get that. But this all should show all of you something that we've referenced for a long time. And I'm not talking specifics now. I'm not going to get into the things that I know or I think I know. But this should just be the perfect example, JC. You and I have said this multiple times. I've seen you say it a lot. You don't have any idea what Coach Tanner actually deals with behind the scenes. And you better be lucky that you got him in place. Now, I'm not saying that we should forgive him for some of the decisions he's made or he should be cleared for some of the deals that have been. I'm not saying all that. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm just saying there is way more to this story. People have no idea what type of phone calls he takes on a day-to-day basis. And there's some ADs who've come in here and said, the hell with this. I'm getting the hell out of here because they can't deal with it. Coach Tanner has dealt with it for a long time.
Let me flip this back to the sports side of things, because a lot of the conversations on here have had, at least in part, the question, is it the coach, is it the AD, or is it something deeper, right? Let's just stick to basketball and the inability to sustain success. And then you tie it into this conversation. It's pretty easy to connect some dots here on why it's hard to sustain success and why you get a black eye nationally when things don't go your way in a coaching search as well. These guys have to see that. And if they don't see that, then they're not realizing that they're just making the problem worse.
Yeah, I mean, in South Carolina,
I think they would,
for years, has had that type of reputation around college athletics, just kind of, old school, backward. And people say that about the state, and it's wrong. It's wrong. Our state's not backward. Look, man, I've lived in 4 other states, and I'll give you a clue. The most backward one functionally is the one furthest to the north. Believe it. If you want to talk about a state and how it operates and sort of what people get by with here and what they don't, and quality of life and taxes and everything. I mean, I'll show you dysfunctional. It's not South Carolina. I mean, it's, maybe back in the 1860s, it was a little bit of rebel rousing going on down there.
Just a little bit.
Don't tell a South Carolinian what to do, but we paid for that, man. And the South in general has come through that. But there's still this opinion that it's backward. And when you see things like this and you're an outsider, you're like, holy moly. Man, and my question to Gamecock fans out there is, after watching that, and Gamecock fans have this savior coach AD complex, and those days are over. Tom Jurich is not going to come out of retirement, most likely, to take this job as an AD and save the athletic department. That's the dream right now. I wish he would. I mean, I wish he would. I mean, I think he's a great AD, but that dude lives in LA and has a great life. If you're an AD though, and you're out there, let's say you're like Hunter Yurachek from Arkansas, who pretty good AD, up and comer, probably would like to get back to South Carolina. Was it Coastal at some point, or somebody like that? The guy at North Texas is really good. Just mentioning random ADs, and you're sitting there and that these guys are getting up in front of a committee in the General Assembly in the state of South Carolina, and just, again, I'm not going to say lying, but misrepresenting the whole thing and throwing your AD under the bus over what is a very modest buyout situation for the SEC by SEC standards. Are you going to come be the athletic director here?
Mm-hmm.
Hell no, you're not. Hell no, because you're getting thrown under the bus with the dang government. It's a state-supported school,
right?
And there's a lot of two-facedness there with saying I didn't know, I had no idea, whatever. And we all know, based on feedback we've gotten from sources, that every time there's a search, every time there's an opening, every time there's something, that Tanner gets feedback from the vast majority of those people. So if they didn't know what was going on, why are they giving feedback?
Why are they there?
Yeah, why are they there? And that's my question about it. So
yeah,
I think it's just unfortunate. I think, and again, I haven't gotten through Eddie Floyd or Dorn Smith.
Well, Eddie Floyd sleeps through most of it, but then he talks at the end. You'll see. That's him. That's him in the background falling asleep the whole time that you're watching. It's Eddie,
I had
right?
no idea. I didn't look in the background.
Like, oh my God, is that Eddie Floyd?
And Dr. Floyd, you hear all kinds of mixed opinions. I personally think it's because he's just been on the board for so long, and he's kind of stood his ground on some things over the years. But you hear people that know him love him, and people that don't kind of make him into the boogeyman. I think the answer is probably that he stood his ground on some things, rubbed some people the wrong way. I think he's been wrong about some things, particularly one basketball coaching search about 20 years ago. But that's okay. I mean, nobody's perfect, and I think everybody does what they think is best. The problem is too many cooks in the kitchen, and the problem is things like this today, where you have a lot of CYA, and that's cover your, fanny, CYF cover. I like that word, fanny. Remember, women used to be called Fanny. Fanny. Oh, Fanny. How are you? Oh, good. I'm just going to go testify in front of the state legislature because, Ray Tanner paid somebody $10 million.
Yeah.
Anyway,
no idea how it works.
That was crazy. But no, I there's a lot of covering your butt, and that's for people that are trustee. Think about that word.
Yeah.
Trustee. That means you're entrusted with doing what is right by the University of South Carolina. And you're making the athletics department out to be this rogue operation and just to cover your own butt. And to me, that's a violation of that trust. And so that's unfortunate, very, very unfortunate and disappointing. And I'm digging into this more, folks. I'm not done with it, so stay tuned.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt it. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that was thrown around in there, some great questions that were asked, certainly about the future of the university and diversity and things of that nature. I did think that a couple of the gentlemen that were on the in the General Assembly, one in particular who kind of inferred that Lamont Paris was paid less because he's black, that was way off base. That couldn't have actually been any more wrong.
And then you had, he's making 10 times what he made it.
Yeah. Well, that was one side, and the other side of it was, well, he only made $250,000. Why are we paying him 2.2? And I'm sitting here thinking, wait a second, you just said that he's not making enough, and now you're saying that he shouldn't be making this much. So what are you talking? Like, these guys don't know what they're doing. So if you're going to be a board of trustees member and you're going to get up there and answer these questions, you got to be prepared, and you got to be able to put them in their place when they ask you these questions, because they don't know.
Yeah, and I think Tanner, I think the deal with Lamont probably
I think it's a great deal.
The salary is a little higher, and the buyouts a little. Most buyouts are 75 to start with, at least maybe 80. 65 is a lower number.
Yeah.
It's
a great deal. It's $100,000 escalator a year. It's a fantastic deal.
When you roll through year 3, I mean, and things are. I mean, you can get out of this in 3 years if it's not working. So at a relatively low cost. So I didn't think it was egregious at all, and I even think that, with the exception of that, extending Will out to 6 was a bit much. And in hindsight, though, 3 years, 3 bowl games, whatever, things were going well. It kind of went under the radar. But looking back, that was probably the biggest mistake. If people are going to get all into this Kingston buyout thing, but that's price of doing business, man. So we'll see what happens. I know we're running out of time, but I'm not done with this. I've got some phone calls, hopefully later today, that are just shed some more light on it. So, like I said, stay tuned.
We always do. TheBigSpur.com, where you can join for what is it right now? 65% off?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know.
If you haven't joined, I don't know.
Less than 100%.
Yeah, it looks like, JC, as of now, there are some blockages being thrown up for some of these guys who've been around a while, and we'll see what it looks like. Did the Gamecocks win the national championship? We won't talk to you till next Wednesday.
I think that's the goal every year.
Oh, you're kidding me!
No,
Shocker! I know it's the goal. Did they win it or not?
I think they do. I think they take it this year. I think sometimes great teams, right? No, I'm saying this. I'm saying it's going to be a disappointment if they don't. I'm going to say this team's underachieving.
Yes, 11 McDonald's All-Americans. Absolutely.
I mean, that's the, unfortunately, when you recruit like that, that's the expectation. But you can ask John Calipari. Sometimes that doesn't happen, right? But I think they do. I think that sometimes basketball teams that are that talented, that have times where you just kind of scratch your head and go, "What the hell is going on out there?" Sometimes those teams at the end hit their stride, and I feel like North Carolina and then Creighton, this team started to hit its stride. So I think they're kind of ascending, going up to Minneapolis, and I mean, it's a great men's and women's Final Four. But women are Carolina, Louisville, UConn, Stanford. Wow. And then on the men's side, Duke, North Carolina, Villanova, and the cheating Jayhawks of Kansas. So,
Blue Bloods.
I think sometimes it's good to have blue blood Final Fours.
I agree.
Not that Cinderella, every now and then. So, it should be a good weekend of basketball. But I think the Gamecocks are taking it, and that'll be her second one. Probably could have had a third in 2020 if the season wasn't canceled, and then they'll be the favorites to win it next year. And anything less than that's a disappointment.
In the next year.
Unfortunately, that's the standard that's been set. So,
thanks, buddy. We kept you a long time, and we'll do it again next week.
Appreciate it, guys. Always a pleasure, and we'll holler at you soon.
There he is, the JC Shurburtt Show, joining the JB and Goldwater Show. It's we talked a lot about this BOT stuff, Darren, but it's if you you don't really have to be which I know you don't have a ton of time, just sit around and watch all this, but if you do, I'll send you the link. If you feel like one night you just want to watch it, it's really interesting.
It doesn't sound interesting. Like the whole thing to me sounds like you're beating your head against the wall, and this is why South Carolina is stuck in the mud.
Yeah. Well, you're not wrong. I just mean hearing the testimony, you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, look, here's proof that this whole thing is a mess.
Yeah, dude, it's
yeah.
crazy.
I got the synopsis. There's proof. I can go watch it if I want that this whole thing's a disaster.
Well, here's the good news. It's National Doctors Day. And so all of you who about had a heart attack over this deal over the last 48 hours, go see your doctor. Thanks to Chad Holbrook, JC Shurburtt, Darren Goldwater. See you tomorrow at noon.